Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Psychom Chats with Ntigi. It's a Wednesday, and you know what we do. And today, it's gonna be too much fire. I really wanted to make like a joke with too much, but anyway, it's too much fire tonight because we are pivoting a little bit, visiting some different waters today. We're not necessarily talking to a scientist, but we're speaking to somebody obviously who's used science to be where they are. We're speaking to a pilot. We're speaking to somebody who just enjoys being in the air. So for those of you who are afraid of heights, maybe she'll motivate us and be like, it's okay, you can do it, you can fly up in the air and it's amazing. So I'm not gonna waste much time. I'm gonna bring on Nyasha Manyika to talk to us today about her career journey, about aviation, about African leaders in aviation, everything really. So yeah, let's bring her on and get this conversation started. And remember, use a comment box, engage, and use a question box to ask questions. Let's have fun. To come online, and then we're gonna have this conversation. Good evening.
Hi, Nsiki. How are
How are
you?
you?
I'm good,
I'm very
thanks.
good. All right. We have a little bit of a delay, but that usually tends to fix itself after a minute or two, so don't you worry.
No problem.
I think it's fixed itself already.
That's awesome.
I am so excited to have you here today. Firstly, because you're the first pilot we have here. Like, this is like the pilot's chat with the pilot.
Oh, thank you so
This is
much.
the first time I'm a pilot. And I'm so excited to have a chat with you about your journey and everything in between, really.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. You've got a lovely channel, and yeah, just watching it all the every Wednesday. It's been really good. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm proud to be the first one to represent the other pilots.
Yeah. So how are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling excited?
Yeah, it's different from the air, so a little bit nervous, but I know you're in control and it's gonna be flow well.
Yes, we're gonna do just fine. Before we even start, the first question, obviously you're a pilot, we know that, but are you afraid of heights or have you ever been afraid of heights?
I'm very much scared of heights. We,
Wow.
yeah, my family can testify because I remember in 2018 we went to Victoria Falls and I chickened out on one of the experiences that we're supposed to do, and everyone was shocked. Like, but you fly.
What was this?
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, I do fly, but I'm in control, not unlike now where I have to be thrown out, and I have no control over that. So yeah, I am scared of heights.
Wow. Like some people would think that she's a pilot, like literally she's in the air all the time. And that means heights are nothing. And you're just like, no, I'm terrified of heights.
But you do get some pilots who are not terrified. It's different bunches though. There's some who are like proper adrenaline junkies, and yeah, they don't mind that. So it's different.
Okay. All right. So for you, it's just the control. The fact that when you're in the air, you're the one in control and you can control whether we're going down or what's happening. Whereas if it's bungee
Yeah,
jumping or skydiving, it's like this gravity is in control here. That's it.
I'd, yeah, I'd like to think so. Yes.
All right, cool. Anyway, let's get to know you a little bit now that we've obviously broken the ice a little bit. So somebody who's never met Nyasha, like who is she? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Nyasha. I'm a mom. I'm a mom to a 2.5-year-old. I'm also a wife. My husband's also a pilot. He's ex-military. And currently I work at a flight school. I'm a college registrar there. I'm also working on my flight instructor certificate as well. So I can be able to teach others to fly. I'm also a co-founder for African Leaders in Aviation. Yeah, and I've currently been invited to join Women in Aviation International on the membership committee. So yes, I guess it's all things aviation.
Amazing. And your journey to being a pilot, like take us into that, take us to when you were a child. Is this something you're like, this is what I want to do? When I grow up, I want to be a pilot, or something along the way changed and it sparked in you? It's like, okay, now I want to be a pilot.
When I was younger, I actually thought maybe I'll study business studies or I'll get into law or something. I actually didn't do any sciences in high school. It was only after I finished high school, I was at home waiting for my results. A family friend opened a flight school in Zimbabwe, and he told my parents about it. And they actually said to him, like, Nyasha didn't do sciences, she didn't do physics, she didn't do chemistry and all. And that's when he actually told us that you don't need all that. Anyone can fly. And immediately my parents signed me up. I took a trip to the airport, signed up, and that was it. I actually just got into aviation like that. So my story was actually different in that way. So I got to know about aviation as I walked but after I started, that's when I actually got to learn about the different aircraft. I wasn't exposed to it younger, so I didn't know the different types of aircraft that existed. I yet alone had never like gone far away with an airplane, so I wouldn't have known. But I started my training in 2007 in Zimbabwe. But then that's when things were not so great, so I moved to South Africa. I got my private pilot license, which is the first license. I got it in Bloemfontein at a school called Westline Aviation. After which I moved to Johannesburg. I started flying at Lanseria Flight Center. I started writing my exams and all. So when you're doing the flying, you start off with your private pilot license. From then, you go to the commercial pilot license, after which you can either get into maybe charter flying, or you can get a flight instructor certificate and, just gain more experience, gain more hours and all. With other areas, you can go other areas, other parts of the world, you can go direct to the airline industry. So it just depends the path that you take. So I first got my private pilot license. Then in between, as I was waiting to get my commercial, I kind of got stuck because it's a bit expensive, the whole program, I'm sure you've heard. So I kind of got stuck in between and had to drop out for a little bit. And during that time, that's when as I said, my journey, I just found it as I was walking in it. That's when I found out about the different scholarships that existed, and also I applied for scholarships, and that helped me finish up my training. So yeah, then I got my commercial license in 2016. So the journey itself can take you even 2 years, but mine was longer, mainly because of financial reasons. But within 2 years, if your finances, everything is in order, you can start from 0 hour and get your commercial pilot license.
Wow, that's interesting, because somebody would think it might take a little bit longer, but like you say, if the finances in place within 2 years, you can literally move from not flying at all to flying a plane with hundreds of people on it,
No,
basically.
not quite. Remember, I said you'd need to get more hours, so you get
Ah, for the
yeah.
airline part.
If you are to go to the airline, you'd start off maybe as a second officer or as a first officer with maybe a highly experienced pilot there to at least supervise you, and you grow along the way. Because that's the thing with aviation: the more experience you get, the more hours you build. Yes, then you can progress to more senior duties. Just depends.
Just depends. Okay, that's cool. So for anybody who's watching who wants to learn how to fly, just know you can do it. And you can get started right away and it'll be great. So
Yeah.
obviously for you, you said your journey was as you walked it, that's when you kind of discovered everything about aviation. And now that you've been in it for quite some time, what have you found most, or what do you find most satisfying about being in aviation?
It's like it's a family, the whole aviation field. It's like we're just connected. It's interesting how a person can be, because right now I'm in the Eastern Cape, but a person can be in Johannesburg and they're flying there and they can actually ask someone who's been here if they know me, or if they go to Johannesburg, you can actually tell them, ah, they saw it. And so it's such a small world, aviation itself. It's like everyone knows everyone and everyone is just so passionate about it. We all go through the same hardships, but we just find ourselves staying in it. And yeah, it's like a partnership, I think. Yeah. So it's just something
Mm.
that, yeah, I'm sure like now with COVID, you can see some pilots were getting laid off and all, but if the opportunity comes for them to return and start flying again, they will just go back because it's something you love. It's, I don't know, you just fall in love with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you mentioned hardships that you guys go through similar hardships. What are some of the hardships you've been through this beautiful aviation journey?
For me, like I said, the finances, like not being able to fund my flying as I would have wanted um, to and finish quickly, that was one hardship for me. Um, but I was able to find organizations that sponsor pilots, especially females. So I was able to overcome that one. But that's a hardship that people experience. They're so passionate, they want to fly, but they don't have the money. And sometimes they don't know where to get the money, which is like in my instance, like I said, I got into it after high school. I didn't know about it at all. I was walking the journey, discovering things. I also didn't have role models or mentors. I'd never seen like a female pilot, yet alone like known. I got into this, like I said, maybe slightly by accident. So there wasn't someone to tell me what to do. I had to find out things by myself. So that as well would lead to a sort of a delay in my path, which was a challenge because I didn't know where to get information. I had to work extra hard. I had to work extra hard to find things, this passion. I love this thing, but I can't afford it. How can I afford it? So that was partly that for me. I think it was finances and the role model, the mentors, with the hardships. Then other people will face the hardships of maybe they finish the training but they can't find employment as well. That, and we've got our licenses that need to be renewed probably every year. So if you don't fly for that year, you have to do recurrency trainings and all. So those are some of the hardships that people go through in the field itself. And aviation is a bit sensitive, like you saw with COVID and traveling. Um, all that, that's also another challenge. And also your medical, you also need a medical for to be a pilot. We, like in my instance, I've got a medical renewal every year, so you need to pass that medical for you to fly. If you lose your medical, that means you're not going to be able to fly. So that's another hurdle that comes with the industry. But it's this thing that we love so much, and we just find ourselves looking like, how can I keep on, staying in this?
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned something there about medicals. I think that was actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you because what would disqualify somebody from flying? Because you said anybody can fly. If you want to learn how to fly, you can literally start and you can get your hours, get your license, and so forth. But what would prevent somebody, let's say they had the money, um, or like money is not an issue. They have the money. What else would disqualify them from not being able to pursue a career in aviation?
There could be different medical conditions which could hinder a person. Eyesight is not a problem. Like in my instance, I wear spectacles. You just need to always have an extra pair of glasses that you carry. But like there could be a diabetic, a type of diabetic which would not allow you to be a pilot. Sometimes some psychological, mental, when we go to mental health as well. there can be some. And the other people who are under strong medication, which, maybe it's chronic medication, which may not allow them. And maybe a certain surgery which you've heard prior, or if you're colorblind as well. What you could do is you could be a pilot, but maybe end at private pilot license level and not progress to the commercial. Or you could maybe, if you're really passionate about it, or you can be maybe a sports hobby pilot. You could learn how to fly gliders, for instance. And yeah, but it just depends which medical condition you have.
Okay, so it would mainly be a medical condition that would disqualify you from pursuing
Yes.
a career. Okay, okay. And with this kind of career, how long is the lifespan of it? Because for example, let's say with soccer players, by the time they're like 30, 35, it's just like, nope, you're too old. You can't do this anymore. Your time is done. How is it with aviation?
Like with the airline, it's 65 years. Some airlines, 65 years is the cap. But with things like flight instruction, they really don't have like a proper cap that you can. And other areas like charter flying, it will depend on the person, like the operator that you're actually working for. So you can find someone who's maybe 80 and they're still pushing, they're still flying, as long as, remember that medical that I spoke about. If they're still able to get that medical and they're still able to pass their currencies and all, then they can continue. But just depends where they're operating.
Right, right. That makes sense. That makes sense. But
With that,
now let's yeah.
I also would like to encourage, even if you're 40 and you've got this childhood dream that you want to fly, you can actually just still pursue it. Because even if you're to get in, you still have 25 years in the airline, for example. So yeah.
So no excuses. No excuses, especially
No
because there's
excuses.
scholarships out there. So even the finances can get sorted.
Yes.
Now, like taking from scholarships and so forth, I want us to talk about African leaders in aviation.
Yes.
Tell us about this baby of yours that you're a co-founder of.
Okay, so Kodani Dafani and she's the other co-founder. We were actually together in Johannesburg, flying there together. And we actually have walked this journey together. We've gone through very similar challenges, like I mentioned before, finances, maybe no role models, no mentors and all. So we were actually just talking one afternoon. We were like, you know what? We need to put together something that stops this. This should stop with us. The next generation, the next people who are coming through, they don't have to go through this. We've already done the research. We know who's giving out the scholarships. We know what the people need. Why don't we, start this organization that aims to encourage young people to take up aviation, to take up STEM, and actually be those role models that we didn't have, be those mentors that they didn't have, be that resource tool that we didn't have, So which is what we did. So we started a nonprofit, which is called African Leaders in Aviation. We want to encourage young people, even old people, like I said, who are 40, to take up aviation in STEM, as a career choice, especially here in Africa, there's like, I could go on. It's like, for example, drones. It's a whole ecosystem that's just waiting to be harnessed on. Like people are saying they're unemployed. There's drones. They can get into drones. There's just so much. So we're just trying to provide that information, the opportunities which are out there, and let people go after all this and enjoy this cake.
That's so great. That's so great. And ever since you started with African leaders in aviation, what have been some of the highlights?
Like for example, last year we hosted our first Girls in Aviation Day. It was online due to COVID. It's so over 80 girls from all over Africa signing up and joining in as well. We had about 15 panelists from women who are in Africa, from Africa, who are in different career fields. We had pilots, engineers, air traffic controllers, aviation software engineers as well. They were all there, part of the panelists, cabin crew, and they were able to just, share their stories like how we're talking now, and just inspire all these young girls. So for us, that was like, whew, that was just the motivational thing that just kept us fueling us up as well. We also have an online mentorship program that runs like once a month on a Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m., whereby we expose young kids from the age of 12 to about 16 to the different. Every month we focus on a career, and they get to learn about it, and it's just the feedback that we get that's actually our other high that we're so proud of. And our Instagram page as well, feedback is great. We always searching for scholarships available, and we're posting them, and we have people who apply for the scholarships. If they need help, perhaps proofreading their essays, just putting together their packages, we're there to help them. And for us, that has also been something that's been a very good high, because we get amazing feedback. People who thought they couldn't continue with their flying, they get scholarships and they're able to finish the school. That's really been a high. And another high, we're
There's a
actually
lot of
having our
highs.
Africa tour.
Mhm.
That's us. Every week we've got a good testimony. We've got something good. We're actually planning our first Africa tour. 3 African countries. We're going to be hosting 4-day aviation and STEM camps for the youth. So that's our big high this year.
Amazing. So I don't know how much planning you've already done for this tour that you could tell us where you're going so that people can be ready.
Okay, so far we've announced Kenya. We're going to Kenya in September. From the 21st to the 24th of September, we're going to be in Kenya. It's a camp, 200 learners, grade 9 and 10.
Amazing. That's so cool. So only Kenya. The other two you tight-lipped about.
Yeah, we'll announce them soon.
Okay, that's exciting. That's exciting. I love the fact that the focus of your nonprofit is Africa as a whole, and that's also like another reason why I wanted to have you on here, because of your passion for Africa, because of your passion for empowering the African child of you can do it and you can be great. So I commend you for that. I really do.
Oh, thank you.
So now you've shared all your highs. You need to also, somebody says, please consider them. Yes, you have to
We'll come
consider your
through.
home country. Come on, come on.
Always.
You've shared a lot of highs, but I mean, we also have to be very honest and very transparent about such journeys that they're not always high. There are some lows, there are some challenges that you face with running an NPO. What are some of the challenges you have faced, and how have you overcome them?
Like when you're running a nonprofit, it can be a two-man job. Like it'll end up maybe Cody and I, but we've been very fortunate that we've got amazing volunteers who do come in. But at times, you would actually need more human resources to help you, push the vision as well. Uh, and also financial constraints. Like we said, aviation can be very pricey at times, and some things that we may want to do. But I think to just put it, so far we've actually been we've been okay. We've faced a bit of challenges, but I think we've managed to have people partner with us in a nice way, and maybe those hurdles are coming, but for now, if I try to look for a proper one, I can't exactly pick it up.
You're fine.
Like I said, with aviation, it's like a family. So I think as people hear about our vision and our mission, they're just so committed to partnering with us and helping us push the vision, and that kind of makes it easier. Because I'm trying to think, maybe we'll face them later. Maybe there's some that are waiting for us. But we've had people come forth and and they've just been very wonderful. Like we've got like Samquest Aviation. We've partnered with them to like get intro flights for young children to go, for young youth to go up flying and all. And even now, as we're going through this camp, we've had amazing people offering to volunteer and help. So yeah, I maybe they're coming, but so far I think we've been blessed.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. But maybe, you faced some challenges, but because of how you overcame them, you didn't even take them as a challenge, you know? It
Yeah,
was just like, oh, that's just a little bump. We can, and then something else happens, then you kind of forget about that challenge. So I get it. I get it. It's perfectly
yeah.
fine. Before I continue with my questions and we continue with this conversation, we've had some people engaging with us here and asking some questions. So I don't want us to run out of time and you don't get to answer it.
Okay.
So let's just quickly look at it. Um, okay, so advice on such women sponsorship. So yeah, somebody's just asking about advice on the different aviation scholarships that are there, specifically for women.
Okay, there's like Women in Aviation International. They open up from July until early October. They offer over 100 scholarships, like close to 400,000 US dollars worth of scholarships. So it just depends at what stage you're at, and you can apply for that. There's also the NBAA, which is the National Business Aviation as well. They also have an international operators scholarship, and that one, people like us from Africa, we can actually apply for that one. There are also organizations like Fuel, the EAA as well. They also offer scholarships. With those ones now, you may need to go do your training in the US as well. And then there's Women in Corporate Aviation. There's the 99s. They actually have like a full scholarship, which is veered towards Africa as well. Yeah, I'm trying to think, but there's actually a lot. Then there are different. The best thing you can actually do is sign up for. Log into pages like Lady Aviators, Female Aviators Sticking Together. Oftentimes they post these scholarships, and also if you follow our page, you can also see some of the scholarships in case of, because I know I'm leaving out quite a number as well from the top of my head.
Yeah. So basically the advice is follow African leaders in aviation on Instagram,
Yeah,
and you'll have information, basically.
yes, 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 yes. I think that's the best, because from the I'm gonna leave out some, but yeah.
Okay, and I'm assuming that is the same for drones as well, because I saw somebody ask a question about drones too.
Yes, the thing, like platforms like Women in Aviation International, they've got different types of scholarships. They've got flight dispatch scholarships, they've got pilots, they've got aircraft mechanics, they've got drones. So just follow the page and see what we post, and then you can follow the website as well, and check out the scholarships that are there. Another thing that we always advise people is apply to the Ministry of Transport in your area. Find out if they got scholarships, even just approaching the government departments, Department of Education, and even companies, businesses as well, because some of them have a corporate social responsibility, and they may actually have an allocation for bursaries and scholarships. So it's just good to just try, send your application, send your cover letter with your CV. Put your passion down. You never know who's going to read it, and it doesn't matter if you get like 10 no, 100 no's. You never know. Amidst that 100 no's, maybe there's going to be one yes. So just send it out. Look for the businessmen, business people in your community, the businesses, the government, mines. You never know who's going to read that letter and actually sponsor you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because out of the million no's, you only need one yes to change
Exactly.
everything. It's
Yes,
one yes.
yes,
So you never know that if you're gonna give up after the first couple of no's, that means you'll never get your yes. So I like that. I like that advice.
yes, yes, yes.
I
That is
really
so
like
true.
that advice for sure. For sure. All right, there's another question. Not a
Okay.
question, but very proud of everything you've achieved so far, Nyasha. I love to see it. So that was
No,
that was
thank
yeah. So it's not a question, but they're just really happy and proud of everything that you have achieved.
She's the flight instructor, hey?
Ah, okay. So everybody, I see the family now. I see the family now.
I, I, you've done
I
so well.
100% see the family. So when we talk about, because you said for you, you didn't have any role models growing up, even when you're walking this journey, because for you it was a by chance kind of journey, which you just fell in love with, and you didn't have role models. How important do you feel representation is?
Oh, it's very, very important, hey? It's very important, which is why platforms like yours are very important for other young girls, especially from Africa themselves, to actually see other African girls or boys, who are doing things like, if you see a fellow African who's a scientist, who's a chartered accountant, who's a researcher, who's something, it just puts everything to perspective because it's someone who looks like you. It's there's just a mind shift that actually happens when you see that in your community. For example, if maybe the your neighbor, for example, is maybe a physics person or even a pilot itself, you actually grow up being like, oh, my neighbor was this and this, so even I can be, because you've been exposed to it. So it's different from when you have no role model, you have no one who you're able to, put in front and, be like, oh, when I grow up, maybe I want to be like, I've seen this. And some things you can never think of them because you've never seen them. So how can you even think of them? But if you've got those role models who are in positions, be it at church, be it in your community, be it, coming to your school, talking to you, that in itself, helps you realize that, oh, even I can do it. I saw someone who looks like me, doing it. So even I can do it. So representation is very, very, very important.
I love that. I love that. Well, that's all the time we have today, folks. Oh my word, I would have loved to continue chatting with you and obviously finding out more about your story. But I know that you've done an interview with Anne on the Roots of the Science podcast where you really went into detail about your journey because it's a much longer episode. So you really went into detail about your journey and you shared a lot of little nuggets. So I really do want to encourage everybody who's watching to go and listen to that podcast. I know it's linked under your bio.
Yes, I think on my link tree, I think it's there.
Yes. Yeah. So just
Yeah.
go into Yasha's link tree and listen to that podcast episode. Then they can get more information from you about your journey and obviously get to know you deeper because 30 minutes is not enough to talk about everything. But Nyasha, thank you so much for coming through today and agreeing to do this. It was a short chat, but I think it was such an insightful one.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the platform and everything you're doing. Really, really appreciate it. We need this.
Thank you. And thank you so much to everybody for watching. Have a great evening. This is the end. Until next week. All right. Thank you, Nyasha. Have a fantastic evening.
You too, Tiki. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.